Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Life in Red podcast. Luke Mullin and Amie Just, first one of 2023. New Year is here. Feels about the same, but get used to it, as always.
Yeah.
You
know, when you're writing checks. Do you know how to write a check?
I do.
Okay. You're a young one, so I don't know if you knew what those things were.
Probably was taught multiple times, forgot, relearned. But I'm not saying that I'm out here writing checks on a regular or anything like that.
Okay. No, I had to write a check yesterday, and shocking, I put 2022. So
it takes time.
It takes
some time.
Yes.
Definitely. But wanted to convene, talk all football, all episode today, talk a little bit, some developments on the recruiting trail, and obviously a lot going on. Big time of the year for the national college football landscape. So we'll get to that in a moment, but obviously we want to start off this episode. Damar Hamlin, the news across the entire country going on, a very scary moment, needing CPR on the field. So obviously all of our thoughts are with him. Also want to prompt all of you. Amy wrote a great column on Brady Barron, former Lincoln East player, went through something kind of similar. So local ties to a big national event, but obviously very scary for everyone who plays football, watches football. Our thoughts are with him.
Yeah, right before we started taping here at 3:20 on a Thursday, he is still in critical condition, but the prognosis is getting better. He's awake. He's been communicating with doctors. Can't speak yet because he's still intubated, but it's a good sign.
Yes, good news, and hopefully more to come as well. But moving on to our topics for the day, I think, a big splash for Nebraska in the recruiting world. You have this very busy December period, and then things kind of, taper off for a little bit till February. That is with the exception of the Under Armour All-American game, one of the best traditions, you could say, classics. I just love, that they cut from in-game action to these players. They got the hats in front of them, national TV, the family's there. It's a big moment. It's great. And, oftentimes, it's top 100, top 200 recruits. Some of the best players in the nation, and Nebraska landed too. Ethan Nation and Cameron Lenhart.
Yeah. And those were expected, right? But one of the cool things I thought, I'm not as into recruiting anymore as you and some of our other coworkers. But one of the things I thought was really cool was how they just kind of kept things quiet for Ethan. He signed last month, I guess, because it's January now.
Yeah.
But they kept it quiet, let him have his moment, announce, and then be like, oh yeah, we signed him last month, which I thought was pretty cool because, I don't know, I am all for a scoop, but you don't want to, ruin some kid's moment.
Yeah, when they're going on ESPN.
I know.
You want that clip.
Moment. Yeah, exactly. So that was the cool part for me, I guess, just watching that. So.
Yeah, and I think, in terms of the players that Nebraska added here, both, I think, high potential, which is something we've discussed often with this recruiting class. That's the MO, that any coaching staff is looking after. But in particular, I think Nation, he's a little bit undersized maybe for what you might expect from a cornerback, but his athleticism, it makes up for it. He reads the game very well from what I've seen. Had a couple nice plays there in the All-American game and had a lot of offers. He was heavily sought after SEC schools. He'd been in contact with them for a while, but Nebraska gets him late in the process, shows him that interest, tells him how they want to use him, got him here for an official visit, and that sealed the deal.
Yeah, yes, he is a little undersized, but he also fits the mold of something else that Nebraska has been looking for in this recruiting class, whether it's high schools or transfers, is speed.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter the position. They're looking for speed because you can't necessarily teach that. You can't coach that in the weight room, excuse me. So they'll figure out getting pounds on him and all of those things, but speed you can't really teach.
Yeah, and DB's coach, Evan Cooper, he has been an ace recruiter. When he's been talking with guys, trying to get them to Nebraska, most of them have ended up here. So he's done an excellent job at that. And also defensive line coach Terrence Knighton has been doing a lot too. maybe coaching edge rusher Cameron Lenhart here in the next couple of months, who's a really interesting one, considering he was committed to the previous staff and decommitted, but I mean, he was still obviously interested. I mean, some of the things, that transcend staff, the facilities, the town, the academics, all sorts of factors. But it sounds like, Rule and Knighton and this entire staff really built relationships with Lenhart, just like they did all these other recruits in a very short amount of time.
It makes you think what's going to happen when this staff has, more than a truncated amount of time to put together a class. Yeah, it's what they've done is nothing short of remarkable in 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, and as you bring it up, it was a class that was 8 to 10 players, depending on when it was, 50th, 60th nationally, one of the lowest in the Big Ten, just because of that instability, the questions of, how could they add to the class? Where would it be at the end of this? Well, as we record, they're roughly top 25 to 30, depending on the recruiting service. But that's a huge jump in, as you said, a month's time.
Yeah, and regardless of who they hired as a coach, there was going to be a jump, right? Because guys are going to bring in some of the people that they want, but that big of jump, I don't think would have happened just with anybody.
Sure, yeah, and like I said, the relationships they built. This is not necessarily a case of where all these guys, they didn't have all these prospects lined up. They had players and names in mind, and who they wanted to talk to, but it was hard work, and from the players' end too, it's obviously kind of a discovery process. So saying the right things, telling them what they needed to, and obviously the strength of those relationships, like I said, and everything Nebraska had to offer, gets them here. And we'll see if there's any more additions in the next couple weeks. Probably the transfer portal, Nebraska hosting a few visitors this weekend, and we'll see. There will be more names. Obviously, they still have a couple more weeks to decide their final destination and go through that visit process now that it has that period for transfers coming to campus as well. So we'll see.
We will see. Though I don't anticipate a lot of change, but some. Yeah,
the roster numbers, they're already over a little bit, so you got to be careful at a certain point not to take too many.
Yeah. Don't want to run into a problem like baseball. Anyway.
For another day. But, wanted to talk about college football playoff, of course. Most years, I hate to say it, but the semifinals have been blowouts. They've been pretty boring.
Duds. No fun to watch.
There's been a very clear top one or top two teams. Well, this year, that went out the window, which the Big Ten did go 0-2, but two very close, entertaining games. Wanted to talk about. The first one, TCU beating Michigan 51-45. Thought it was a little sloppy, a lot of turnovers, some penalties, execution, but Michigan kept fighting and TCU kept answering.
Yeah, it was wild. I could not keep up with that game. It felt like pure chaos. I think that's what I tweeted.
Yeah.
It was just pure chaos all game long, and that's what you want as a viewer, right? I would have hated to write off of that game, but not my problem. But it was so entertaining, and sure, turnovers are sloppy, but they're also fun. So
yeah, that's what you want. You kind of want those momentum swings, where big plays are answered with more big plays, regardless of where they come from. And TCU defense stepped up, 2 pick sixes of J.J. McCarthy, which I think helped bridge the gap, because going in, I was like, this is an elite Michigan defense. I was not expecting TCU to move the ball the way they did, which is obviously a credit to them. But 51 points in the end. Yes, the pick sixes helped, but the TCU offense, Max Duggan, they showed up in the big moment.
They also, Michigan, and it's a little precursor to potentially what we could see, right? Had issues with TCU's 3-3-5 defense. And that's probably what Nebraska is going to be moving forward with in the future with Tony White. So even though we're talking about teams that don't really have anything to do with Nebraska, you look at the struggles that Michigan had against TCU, and it's intriguing.
It sure is, yeah. And, the other thing, too, of course, when we're talking about Max Duggan, pretty close, Council Bluffs, Iowa, right on the border. Potentially had some Nebraska interest. Scott Frost, interested in him, but ends up going down to TCU, and you just have to give so much credit to him. I mean, obviously you can read the TCU beat writers that have been following him the whole year, but I mean, for a guy that came into the year probably wasn't going to be the starter, had that idea of being benched, having to accept that, and goes out, becomes a starter again, and leads them all the way to the national championship game. I mean, what a dream, right?
And he's a finalist for the Heisman.
Yeah.
What a year! What a series of 4 or 5 months for that kid. It's pretty cool, pretty special. And I mean, TCU was bad last year, like bad. And so, everyone used to point to the miracle that Scott Frost performed at UCF over those 2 season stretch when UCF was like 0-12 and then, won the national championship. And then, I mean, what Dykes has done at TCU in 1 season, I have no words. It's just phenomenal to watch and shows that it can be done. Not often, but it can.
And it's remarkable to look back at. Obviously, I mean, hindsight is so much different from before the season. TCU being picked, I think they were 7th in the Big 12 was the preseason poll. I mean, the expectations for the team versus the reality. I mean, what a year for all of them, and like you said, a big credit to that coaching staff.
Absolutely.
And of course, I mean, the other semifinal then was just as good, if not better. Going down to a pretty epic fourth quarter. Back and forth. Of course, Georgia pulling away, 1-point win with the final last-second missed field goal for Ohio State. But, I mean, my takeaway, you look at those elite programs, they produce so much NFL talent, and that was on display. And, of course, there were plenty more NFL players on the sidelines, I'm sure, waiting for their chance next year.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's how stacked those two teams are. It, pains me to just, look at, oh, what if all of those other talents were somewhere else and playing? And it's like Alabama, right? They always have at one point they had 3 future Heisman winners on their roster. Anyway, but yeah, it's CJ Stroud and Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
And, I know Stetson has had some of his detractors this season, but he proved himself worthy the other day, didn't he?
Yeah, both incredibly clutch. I mean, that fourth quarter, those big moments the spotlight's on, that's when you need a quarterback to step up, and they both did.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that game was so much fun to watch.
And, we talk about the NFL talent, too, that Ohio State wide receiver room. Marvin Harrison, getting hurt. That's kind of, that's the what if there for the Buckeye fans as well. He was, dominating the game as he's dominated all year long. And Ohio State, now they've lost back-to-back games for the first time since 2013.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Because 2013, the fall of 2013, I was a freshman in college. Don't tell me how old you were. Middle school, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gross.
Exactly.
Gross.
But I think, just seeing those 2 games, great, best semifinals we've had all year, or all of the 4-team playoff era, which brings us to our next topic, that next year will be the last one. I mean,
good.
The future of college football is looking a lot different, and it's looking like the playoff will be accessible to a lot more teams, which, like you said, is a good thing.
One of my favorite Mike Leach, rest in peace, tantrum moments was he was not a tantrum, just a good rant, I guess, about, high school football. They have playoffs. They make it work. But that's not good enough. Okay, Division III football. They have a playoff. They make it work. It's still not Division I. Okay, what about Division II? Oh, they've got a playoff. Oh, FCS, they've got a playoff. Oh, well, Division I football, let's look at who's better than us. The NFL, oh, they have a playoff. And it's just, it is the best.
Yeah.
I'm obviously nowhere near as eloquent as...
we got to get you fired up, and then we can get a Mike Leach-esque rant, hopefully.
Oh, no. But I mean, hey, like that's what comes to mind when I watch this 4-team playoff.
Yeah.
I'm like, this could be better. And there are so many reasons why it's not, right? You know, the bowls have such a stranglehold on college football. You know, do you have to change the entire setup in terms of, okay, well, yes, the FCS has a playoff, but they played less games, so they can, you know, do a full playoff. Do you move the season up a week or two so we're not, you know, doing the playoff in like the third week of January and make these kids play from August to, you know, almost February? So there's a lot of, you know, contingencies that have to be looked at when you do something of this magnitude. But I don't care what you have to do. It's got to be fixed, because there's nothing more special than the playoffs. But is it a real playoff when it's only 4 teams? No. It's an invitational. Yep. It is a postseason invitational with a trophy at the end of it.
And as we've seen, I mean, the teams getting invited are often the same teams and often from the same conferences, which obviously the 12-team format will aim to fix that, with the 4 highest-ranked conference champions all getting byes. And then, I love it, first-round games to be held on campus sites, hopefully, with kind of the caveat, I mean, if a small school was in these top seats, they could host at a neutral venue with more seats. But, man, I mean, the idea of playing a playoff game at home in December or, you know, wherever it may be, you know, obviously in Big Ten country, I mean, that's a very enticing idea indeed.
I mean, lots of sports do that. Women's basketball for the postseason, men's basketball for the NIT, women's volleyball. But there's something just a little bit more special about football. Gosh, I mean, could you imagine a small school hosting, like, let's say Tulane hosts Michigan?
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, that would be so fun. Like, it just creating new memories and excitement for a sport that's pretty old. And I don't know, it's cool. Also, a little moment here. Tulane, how about that?
Yes.
Let's go. Could you imagine if they had the 12-team playoff this year? Like, how much potential chaos?
Oh yeah. They could be in
baby.
They could be in the quarterfinals right now.
Roll wave.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. I mean,
that was an exciting game too.
Yes. I thought it was over, obviously, with 4 minutes left or whatever it was.
Never count out Willie Fritz.
Yeah.
Ever.
And never count out a big time collapse too.
Also that.
But the other thing that I really like about the 12-team format is that a loss or two doesn't ruin your season, because in this like 4-team playoff era, you kind of have this concept where one loss and, like, you know,
you're done.
Yeah.
Basically.
For teams that have those national championship aspirations, I mean, it's crazy how high the level of play needed to be, kind of the expectations. And now, you know, it's kind of a case where, hey, you know, go out, schedule that marquee non-conference game, because a loss isn't going to knock you out of the playoffs. This year alone, if we were using, you know, the top 12 rankings, 2 loss teams, Alabama and Tennessee, would be in. 3 loss Utah and Kansas State, with great wins, couple losses too. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're one of the best teams in the country, and they'd be able to play for a national title.
It just needs to be here already.
One more year.
Boo.
And of course, I guess, you know, probably the only downside is that other bowl games become a little bit less and less relevant, but we've already seen that trend happening. I mean, it's not anything that is worth ruining a potentially amazing playoff system. So
honestly, like, the bowls should, you know, embrace this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, like, it gives another opportunity for some mid-tier teams to come play. You know, I don't know. Like, I love bowl season. I think it starts a little too early. But again, there are so many bowl teams, and you have now so many 5 and 7 teams playing. Maybe there needs to be change there too.
Yeah.
But
the bowl landscape has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And this is just the latest change. there will be more. So adapting and adjusting to the times, no doubt.
Yeah. I'd be okay if we cut a few. Not all of them. Give me the Cheez-It Bowl every day of the week.
Yes. Yes.
But some of the other ones,
I want more food or drink sponsored bowls with that big Gatorade dumps, like the mayo bath. I mean, come on. Let's get.
Yuck.
That was an involuntary reaction right there to the thought of a mayo bath.
I don't want to take a bath in mayo.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you want to?
If I just want a bowl game, I mean, why not? Yeah.
Ew. Gross. But yeah, speaking of food bowls, RIP to the Outback Bowl.
Indeed, the Bloomin' Onion mascot,
Yeah. It's
glorious.
perfect. Fantastic. It's great sponsorship.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see.
Maybe a Raising Cane's Bowl one day.
yeah, I like
That'd
that.
be cool. Todd Graves, do you hear
Yep.
me? That's the founder of Raising Cane's, if you didn't know. Anyway, yeah.
I know the dog. The dog's named Kane, right? That's where it came from?
Yes.
I spent some time at that restaurant.
Do you know where it was founded?
Ooh, gotta be like, since you're asking, gotta be Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Knowledge.
But before I lived in Louisiana, Raising Cane's catered my high school graduation party. Fun fact.
Nice.
It was good. I love their chicken fingers.
Yeah.
They're not as good as they used to be because they're, not as big as they used to be. Anyway, we went
fully,
a little
yeah, we
off
have
the
fully-
deep end today.
We started this episode saying we're only going to talk about football, and we end
Raising
here.
Cane's is about football.
Yes.
It's fine. It's totally fine. This was like the semifinals, a bit chaotic.
Yes, indeed. Well, look forward to a return to form next week. We'll be talking staff. Staff will be finalized. Get the chance to hopefully sit down with a couple. We'll hear from the coordinators soon. So we'll have our full reaction to new staff, any updates that come from the next week. But I think that does it for us today. Appreciate all of you tuning in as usual. For Amie Just, I've been Luke Mullin. Thanks for watching the Life in the Red podcast.